2-minute warning. There it is. Dr. Barnes, can you come back? I know, get over here. Eric's here, we can start. Is Lisa coming? And Commissioner Zappel's coming, but he's running late because he had another meeting. And I assume the others, since we haven't heard from him, are going to be here.
I talked to Mr. Zappel this morning. He has a luncheon he's coming.
Yes. So I will call this meeting to order and ask Jenny to start the roll, please.
Pat Bradford.
I am here.
Pete Wildebohr. Jesse Barnhart. Here. Kim Clark.
Here.
Paul Slovic.
Here.
Hannah Moon. Philip Sutton. Charlene Thompson.
Here.
Jared Worthington.
Here.
Stephanie Walker.
Here.
Rob Zappel. Eric Cradle.
Here.
Amanda Kusiak.
Here.
Lisa Wurzbacher. Natalie English. John Hennett.
Here.
Christopher Riley. Vivian Jones.
Okie dokie. Let's do the pledge, and then we have a recorded invocation. Kim Clark is going to lead it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, this is Tom Hauser at the Global River Church. We're calling in for the invocation to bless the board. First, we want to thank you and honor all those that give such support to our children, the education and the stuff that you go through. We certainly honor and thank you for your service. And right now we want to pray. Lord, we just thank you that you are the God who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above what we ask or think. We also know that in Jeremiah 33:3 it says, "Call to me and I'll answer you, and I will show you great and mighty things." One of the great names of our God is that he is Jehovah Jireh. He's a provider. So Lord, we know for the finances, for the support, for the wisdom to be able to figure out how to do budgets and how to spend it wisely for the most benefit. So Lord, we pray for our children. We pray for their protection. We also pray for your sovereign covering over all the board members, for their unity and purpose. We know that Psalm 133 says that God blesses, and he actually commands a blessing when we dwell together. That means operate together in unity. Unity is powerful. So is this unity. So, Lord, we pray for a unified board. We pray for unified decision-making. And in the midst of it, Lord, you're the one who leads, guides, and directs. So we ask that you lay out the pathway that all of these, those that are called to this position would be able to honor both God and man. But we also know that the primary thing for all of us is that our children would be protected and educated to be able to excel and be able to face all the challenges that are before them in their lives. So we thank you, Lord, for what you're doing, and we give you praise and glory in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Amen.
Next up, approval of agenda. Would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make such a motion.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okie dokie. Next thing, same thing for the minutes. Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
So we have a first and a second to approve the minutes as they are. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, minutes pass. We're going to jump into general obligation bond referendum, timeline and key milestones. And I have been doing some digging. So I'm going to start with just what I've dug up so far. And again, Ms. Walker and other commissioners can, but I'm just trying to come up with some timelines and some things that have happened in the past. And I want to correct some things I have tried to figure out and said and introduced into public. River Lights, Pine Valley, and Mary C. were not on a 2014 or a 2017 bond. There was no 2017 bond. So you have some information about the 2014 bond in front of you. But I sat with Crystal and we did an exhaustive search and we found emails and spreadsheets and things. And you also have 2 sheets that talk about the bond referendum and the rules from 2014, which will just help us be familiar with what the rules should be as we go through this. And then I gave you the 2014 committee members. If you know any of those, you might reach out to them and just say, hey, how'd it go for you? What would you do differently? That kind of thing. But I like to know what happened in the past so that we can go forward into the future. And in addition to that, we discovered an email from Eddie Anderson about River Lights and Pine Valley, and there's a factoid in there that I just think is fascinating. The cost for each was approximately, for Pine Valley and Mary C. back in the day, was estimated at 28 to 29 million per school, and now we're at 44 million. So that's how much. And Eddie talked about the inflation and how much it's grown. The cost of everything has grown. So it's great to have those references as we move forward. And anybody wants any of that from me, I'm happy to share it. But we didn't put it in your package because we don't want it to get too terribly big. But I literally have the construction equipment budget for Pine Valley and River Lights, it's just fascinating to look at for me. Okay. And some of this stuff I'm trying to get, if we add things, I'm trying to get it put into the attachments on our meetings so that we can always go back and find them later when we want them. So, and the other thing that I had was also from Eddie. And let me read what he said. He said, the construction market has experienced cost increases across the county. Our current estimates for River Lights and Pine Valley are significantly higher than originally anticipated. We have obtained cost estimates from the design team, a local construction company, and from NCDPI to gauge a school construction cost across the state. The comparison of original estimate and to the current is attached. We've shared this information with the county for the email. So in talking with Michael Lee and other state representatives, I'm trying to put together something for Isaac Bear, which I will talk about later. But the funding was obtained from the General Assembly for Isaac Bear. So I kept trying to find where the bond was that dealt with Isaac Bear, but it really didn't. So I take back everything I said about the 2014 and the 2017 bond, null and void. This is the newest information of what we've dug up so far, and we're going to keep digging. So with that,
Madam Chair,
yes.
point of clarification is you said the funding for Isaac Bear. It was for the schematics for Isaac Bear. Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, and when we get to Isaac Bear, we'll talk about that. But you've got in your package and you've got in the attachments the calendar that we're going to follow. And Eric added 2 new dates for me this week. April 6th is the first county commissioners action on whatever bond that we're going with. And April 19th is the final application to the LGC, Local Government Commission. And I think we're going to talk about the Local Government Commission a little bit as we go through today. So,
Can you repeat that one more time so I can write it in my
oh
notes?
yeah, it's on there.
Oh,
If you
it's
go to your, it's in your
Key
packet.
milestones sheet?
These are the 2 new ones, yeah. April 6th is your first county commission action, and April 19th is the final application that goes into the Local Government Commission, which is out of the Treasurer's office. and they have to approve it. And, I mean, Eric, do you want to address what that involves now, just so that we get familiar with it, those of us who weren't involved in the bond in the past?
Sure. So there's a standard application that, as you can imagine, includes all sorts of financial information related to the county. For the general obligation, it's going to be even more involved. Again, with a limited obligation, we typically do. It's backed by the county intending to pay it back. The general obligation bond is legally required that the county commissioners set aside every year enough to repay the general obligation bonds. And so there's going to be a disclosure in the referendum that talks about what the potential impact on the tax rate was going to be, and that has to be approved by the LGC. But basically, the LGC is just there to make sure that we are doing everything the right way and that we're not getting in over our heads, and that the bond buyers are going to get paid back in accordance with the fact that it's a general obligation bond.
So are there questions on that? Yes, Ms. Barnhart.
I know our board has adopted and approved the projects that this subcommittee has suggested, which to the tune of $320 million. My question comes, if we've already suggested that these projects be submitted for the bond, is it a possibility that we could rebid some of these projects to, as I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking the question. The county has to approve what is going to be able to go on the ballot for voting. And so I just want to know if we're able to rebid some of those to potentially lower that number.
And my understanding is we haven't bid it at all. We've just gathered estimates. Is that correct, Dr. Morgan?
That's correct.
Yeah, so, and the timeline for that would be once the voters have said yes, and then we get the sign off from the local government commission, then all the bids go out, right? Is that correct, Ashley?
If I can clarify, we have paid previously for some of the designs that we have.
True.
That we already own, but that was done in the past, years past. So what we've done to this point is exactly what you mentioned. We've simply gathered estimates.
But the ones we have design on, would we not have to pay to have those updated?
Well, we'd have to pay to continue the design work. The designs are preliminary, so there's still more design work that would need to be done. And yes, that will be part of the cost that we've got estimates for.
Do you have anything with that?
Yeah, I was just going to share, once funding is identified, that's when, and we identify the scope of work after the design and everything's been done in a little bit more detail, so we can prepare the bid document, then that's when everything will go out for bid.
And I want to interject right here. We talked, it's in our minutes from last meeting, we as a committee voted not to put a ranking and to send it to our board. And it went to our board and our last meeting, and we voted not to rank again. And in talking to people in the public, especially I was talking to Mayor Sappho the other night at New Hanover, and if I'm deeply invested, let's say in Porter's Neck, and it's last on the list, I might be less inclined to vote for it. So if we don't ever rank them, we just have, here's our ask, then we won't have to worry about any of that negativity that could come attached to a ranking. So again, that's my recommendation, that we just continue with that. Yes, ma'am.
The board did actually rank those items in the board meeting.
We did?
Ms. Josie Barnhart requested 2 items be moved ahead to the top of the list, and the board voted on that.
That didn't pass, did it?
And that was what was submitted to the county.
That
So we
didn't-
can go back and look at the minutes, but I'm pretty sure, that's what I had in my notes.
I remember it not passing.
Because we were required to prioritize those. That was a specific request from the county.
Oops. Do you still care?
I don't remember that specifically. I trust Ashley's memory more than mine on that.
Let's dig around in that, because I remember Josie made the motion and it didn't pass, and I thought about it later, and I talked to a couple people, and that was where the idea came that if we don't prioritize and we don't rank them, then we don't risk, and they will solve themselves as, let's say, Porter's Neck is $7.5 million. that could end up being first because it's the easiest one to get to, or because we have the plans for River Lights, and we have the plans for Pond Valley, we have plans for NHC. Depends on which one can be done first, and that's going to be left up to staff to figure all that out. Yes?
I mean, I did make a motion to put New Hanover and Trask to be at the top two priorities, but I do not believe that passed.
I don't either.
But when it came to the board, my understanding when we voted on it was the priorities of this subcommittee was the two elementary schools were top, and then it was in order from Hanover, part one. And so if it's not a ranking, I mean, I think that would, Dr. Barnes, was it sent over to the county as a ranking system? Because I feel like that is,
Ashley just said it was.
it was.
We just have to
So
dig
I'll
around
go
it.
back to the minutes, and if that's incorrect, Eric, then I'll email you and Eric, the county manager, of that correction, that they are not in priority order, because I did think that, I thought that passed. I had in my notes it had passed. So
No.
I'll go back to the minutes.
And Ms. Barnhart's memory jives with mine, and when I was approving the minutes for today, it says in our minutes from our last meeting that we decided not to prioritize them. So it's codified in our minutes from this committee.
So I have a question, Ms. Bradford, and this might be for Eric. So if we put on a bond referendum, the wording particularly, I guess I'm concerned if we don't have to necessarily link, but they all need to be in the bond.
Right.
So they must all, we gotta make sure that they do get done.
Right.
Per the voters, right? Or
They
no?
would all be listed. I don't have any knowledge that you've got to give any sort of priority order in.
Right. Well, only because we have estimates, and what happens if they come up a lot higher, like what does get priority is my question. And then if their money runs out, I mean, trying to make sure they all get done, even
Well,
if they're
also,
not ranked.
There's an expression too that, you know, we don't have time to do one thing at a time. We may be doing more than one project
Mhm, right.
simultaneously.
That's my hope.
But there's like a finite amount of money, and I just want to make sure, even if we don't rank them, that they all get done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what if you run out of like 320 million and there's not enough to finish something?
Wouldn't it be allocated, each item has its budget?
There would be an allocation for sure, but that doesn't mean that there could be some reshuffling if that looks like it needs to be done.
Well, what we're going to hope, Commissioner Walker, is like we've done in the past, we have a set amount and it comes in under bid like New
I would
Hanover
love
just
that.
did, and so we can then move that money over to where it's needed so that we get everything done. And we could, I mean, we could say, you know, in alphabetical order, in no particular order, just to let voters understand that it's not a ranking. I think it will help us get the bond passed, and that's my
Honestly, though,
suggestion.
I do
for it.
think Hanover is a priority. I mean, if I'm not, I mean, obviously we're not ranking today, but like,
Yeah,
it's a priority. I mean, they're all very, very important.
yeah, they're all.
I don't know. Hope we
So,
get them all.
but when we get to what Dr. Barnes and Dr. Morgan are going to do is they are going to prioritize that 20 million and that 10 million and that 10 million for the technology and safety and capital needs. They are going to prioritize those. And while I'm on that, Dr. Morgan created just a draft of a little map. When I was talking to Mayor Sappho the other night, I was trying to explain to him what would be covered in the bond, and he has no dog necessarily in the fight, so it was kind of new information to him. And I explained that, you know, from the north of the county to the south of the county, from New Hanover, you know, over to Trask, we had the county covered. And so Rob created this draft of showing the spots. And you can show this to anybody and they'll get it really quick. And then Dr. Barnes and Dr. Morgan are going to go in and add smaller little icons for all of the places that are going to get touched by the technology, the safety, and the capital improvements. So it's going to be a good, even though we're not going to be doing spending money on marketing, it'll be a good way to share it at one glance for those who are visual. So I'm pretty excited about that. Just
When is that going to be ready? Because I would love to make sure that we are submitting the same information everywhere as we're discussing a bond on a ballot and what projects are actually. So when is that document, whether it's picture and list of full projects, when will that be ready to disseminate to the public?
We're sort of narrowing that down now. I didn't want to put much of the cart before the horse until the county had agreed to the bond first. But we're sort of working on Dawn's working on the technology part, Rob and I are working with some folks in operations about the HVAC part, and then the vestibule part is a part of the safety initiative. So we'll have that for you guys. It's just, we wanted to make sure it's accurate and right before we spread it out.
And I would ask, don't hold that for our next meeting. As soon as you have it, disseminate it in all areas, you know, in terms of, is that something we would have to approve? It isn't, is it, as a board?
I can't speak to that. What I can say is regarding the 20 million for the infrastructure, the HVAC, some of that I think is going to be dictated, or we're going to rely on the facility conditions assessment that we're hoping to start within the next month.
Okay.
That won't be done, our hope is it's done as early as March, but I can't say that for sure.
Oh.
But one of the things that's going to do is we're hoping to identify where we are looking at priorities for that pot of money. And once we get that conditions assessment, we'll use that to either confirm our plans or redirect them based on what
That'd be
that
fine.
reveals.
That'd be fine, redirecting, but we really can't wait until March to have that information.
Well, I don't think we're waiting till March to look at it, but we're not going to have that conditions assessment done
Right.
much earlier than that.
But I like the idea, if you could get, we could call it a draft, or initial, and then redo it once March comes. So we have, so there's something, because one of the things we're going to get to here in a minute is the whole, PR aspect of this thing. So I would direct your attention to the next item, which is the general obligation bond projects. And there's a couple of points to make there. You see 5 bullet points. And Dr. Barnes said I was cheating, but, you know,
You didn't say exactly that way.
what you did say that would be cheating, but listen to my argument. New Hanover High School Phase 1, that's pretty clear, and we're going to talk in a minute in depth about what those upgrades and the facilities are, Phase 1, and then look at Phase 2 and see if there's anything in Phase 2 that we want to now go back and drag upwards. We need to put that to bed or make a change. But Trask Middle School, that touches CTEC and Trask. So for me, that's 2 points. We get a new school out on the CTEC, Cape Fear Community College campus, and then Miss Clark's school becomes a part of Laney. So that hits 2 populations of voters, 2 populations of people at the same time. So I would count that as 2 things. And so this is written as replacement facility at CTEC campus for Trask Middle School, repurpose the existing Trask Middle School as an addition to Laney High School. So that's perfect. But to me, it's 2 things. River Lights Elementary School to replace Mary C. Williams to support regional growth. Again, that affects the River Lights community. That affects the Mary C. Williams, because not all Mary C. Williams kids will go to River Lights Elementary. So it hits 2 places in the county for me. That gets me to 7. Pine Valley on-site replacement school addressing safety and space needs is clear.
You did say, where are the other kids going to go? Do we know?
I think they'll just end up I don't know. Dr. Barnes has mentioned it a number of times, and it makes sense.
Could you ask the question again? I'm
Well,
sorry.
we're talking about River Lights, and not all the kids from Mary C. Williams are going to go to the new River Lights, correct?
Well, I don't want to use the R word, but eventually the word redistricting, when we have a new school, will come up. I would think that the bulk of the students that are at Mary C. Williams will transition over to River Lights. The River Lights will be big enough that it can also draw off some of the overages at Peterson and off of Pelham.
Okay.
So I think we would have to look at the catchment area for each school as it was built and make sure we're balancing capacities.
Have we put any thought into Mary C. Williams? What happens to that property afterwards?
We have not made a definitive, the board has not made a definitive plan for it. I will tell you that in my estimation and when I look at calculating capacities, I do not think we will need both schools.
Right.
So I think the board would have to decide what they would want to do with that land afterwards.
So that potentially could help.
It potentially could.
Yes. And Dr. Morgan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the estimate for River Lights includes the demolition of the building at Mary C. Am I correct?
It does. That doesn't mean we have to do that.
Right.
But that
But
estimate
the
is
cost
being
is already, so anybody who says, well, what about the cost of doing that? It's already included. So if we didn't, first, let's say we decided to sell it with the building intact, with maybe a deed restriction that it couldn't be a school,
But if they wanted the building, then we would recover that cost and it could go to something else.
I wonder if it'd be worth more to keep the building. I don't know, I'm just thinking
Yeah.
land is worth what land is worth, but
Yeah.
with buildings, sometimes that means it's worth more.
It's a beautiful piece of land to put houses on. And the others pretty much say what they need to say, but that's going to be, those major projects include district-wide enhancements. That's what's going to go out there in terms of public relations, marketing. That's what the public's going to see through the media and everywhere else. So if that's not language, Ms. Barnhart, that you thought it should be or is as best it could be, now's the time to start saying. And Dr. Morgan, too.
I just have one question. I just want to clarify. The two sheets for River Lights and Pine Valley that show original budget and current budget, I just wanted to clarify, that current budget is not the current budget now.
No, that was the current budget back then.
Okay.
That was back
I thought
then.
it might be worth making that
Oh,
point for everyone.
Good point. Back then. And that was an Eddie Anderson email dated Monday, November 22nd, 2021. So that was 2021's estimate. Thank you for pointing that out. That's a
Yeah.
very good point. So now
Thank
it's
you.
even more. Somebody who does math well, calculate the percentage
Well,
increase.
and the current numbers are, we shared previously, so it's not, I don't want anybody to think, well, we're going to tell us the new number.
Right.
The new number is, you know, it's in our packets from
Yeah.
last time. I just wanted to make sure if anybody sees current, they know that
That-
this was current at one time.
At the time.
It's not current today.
See if I can, who has that list that they can pull up real quick? From Pine Valley and River Lights. So, yeah, what are the new numbers? I just want to note them here in my notes.
No, that's not the current, that's 2024.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So the current projected estimate for River Lights is 53,855,851. Yes, it is in that.
Yeah,
Yes, it is in
so
that.
it's
in
not
the-
double, it's not
The blue and
double.
gray.
28 to 53 on River Lights. Went from 28 million to 53 million between the first estimate and
Yes.
the current estimate we actually have now.
Yes.
What about PV?
Pine Valley is 56,332,402.
Yeah. So, and I think Pine Valley was 29, so 29 to 56. It's a huge increase. So what it says to me is the sooner we build this stuff, the better off we are, because costs are going to continue to go and go and go. Other questions in that section?
Madam Chair, respectfully, I feel like the district-wide 40 million of building infrastructure, giving more details to the public is going to be extremely beneficial.
I agree.
Because when we're discussing projects, and I understand costs are going to go up, we get the contingency built in that number. I mean, the contingency was $5.5 million in there, in the project management as well. So there is a buffer built into that bond number of 320 with the desire to make sure that every student and every school is affected positively by this. But I think that will go a long way when you're discussing, even with the county commissioners. So I can respect, I don't like hearing the March date about the conditions assessment and full description, but if that's what it's going to take to have accurate information, that's the most important thing, is to be accurate with it. But when the commissioners are considering approving this, I believe that they need information that they can say, this is discussing HVAC system, this is discussing technology, whatever it is. And maybe my examples are not correct here in this conversation today, but those are the kind of things that they're going to want to know and be able to discuss. And I think it's going to inform their decision.
I think we have a joint meeting coming up.
We're trying.
Well,
Lots of
given my
cats to
date,
herd.
so I think we're waiting on something more. But that probably be.
And if I may, I think there's a very good chance that as we're working through, the company is working through the facility conditions assessment, we are going to be communicating with them regularly. So I think there's a pretty good chance we will be able to start identifying things. I just wanted to point out, I don't think it's, well, we're going to wait until we get that done. to identify things. I think we'll be able to do it along the way, and we'll be able to talk with them along the way. I just don't know that the final report will be done before then. But I'm saying that because I understand where you're coming from with that. And
Yeah,
if
and
I could get it, if I can ask them to get it done sooner, and they say, "Oh yeah, no problem," then
Keep
that'll be
pushing them to
great.
get them sent.
But it-
Maybe we ask them to focus their attention on the HVAC systems first, and then do the rest of them, but we can give you, I mean, our folks are skilled and understanding, they've been working with these systems, they will be able to tell us which ones they are most
Yes.
concerned about, to, you know. in the
Right
next-
now.
So, yeah, yeah.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Barnhart, but I think she's saying, break it out into the 10, 10, and 20, and do that for all three, so that we have the greatest understanding of the safety, of the technology, and then the capital improvements like the
Yes.
HVAC units.
We're doing that.
Yeah.
We are doing that.
And it would be really cool if y'all would maybe even say, okay, under those three categories, the top 5 that we know right now, so when we meet with the county commissioners, they would have, they need something there more than just, hey, the HVAC on, Anderson needs to be replaced. So something concrete like that. Now, you guys have in your packet, after that list, you have these sheets in color. And it says in priority ranking, so just ignore that part. But this is the language that will go out there. So if you have suggestions on how to increase the wording, modify the wording, change the wording, now would be a good time to do that. So let's go through them. New Hanover High School, Phase 1, right now. Phase 1, as proposed, NHCS master plan would secure the perimeter of the campus. That's really important, as well as the catwalk, and a new dining hall, new classrooms, a new secure courtyard on the south side of the campus, and a new bus drop zone. Is there anything else that should be in there that we don't know about?
I was asking, is the security of the catwalk going to be, is it going to be tied directly into a building? Will they still be able to access it from the sidewalk? What security are you looking at doing to the catwalk?
So it depends on what phase you're talking about. Correct me if you want to take this one.
We're in Phase 1 right now. Phase 3 had more catwalk in it.
No, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it depends on which phase you're talking about. I think the first one, the goal is to limit access to it from the street with adding some perimeter around both sides of the campus. I think some of it is going to be further developed as we get into the next stage of the design, because they're going to have to get in there and essentially see what will work and what won't work. What they proposed in the latter stage, I believe, is that at that point, each side would connect into buildings on either side of the campus. So I don't believe that's not part of this first phase projection. I think they're talking about trying to limit access to it from outside, and then the next phase would be making sure that it just creates an internal loop for the school.
So I talked to the mayor, I was going to say to your point, Mr. Hennett, I talked to the mayor about it because I've been told twice now that the city owns it, and he said, I don't know about that. The DOT might own it, because it is a crossover the street, so that doesn't allow you to close it. But as soon as we find out, he gave me a name of somebody at the city that could look into that and research who owns that catwalk, or at least the rights.
Mr. Walker, I think we know.
The city owns the floor, the concrete. The county owns the canopy.
Okay, well, he said he'd be happy to give it, or give it or sell it, I don't know.
And our hope, frankly, my hope would be that there are other places where the public can cross that street. They don't need to necessarily cross through the campus. Our hope would be that would be something that the city would agree to. But that's part of the phase 1 conversation as well, is acquiring ownership of it.
I mean, he acted very open to just giving it, but I don't know if he has an authority to do that, but we didn't have a problem with it.
And Dr. Morgan, because I asked about that, that was one of my hangups with Phase 1, is I really wanted that improvement to the catwalk. And I would, if I could, I would drag it forward into Phase 1. But do you know a breakout cost on that part of the estimate for Phase 3? Or could you bring that to us at a later date?
I can look into it. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I
Maybe
believe we've
there's a
got
safety
estimates
grant out
for
there
it.
that we could go after somewhere that could do that part of that simultaneously with phase one being done, and then it would come off of phase three.
Well, some of that, keep in mind, some of that phase three also includes additional
Vestibule.
renovations to other buildings as
True.
well to connect it.
True.
So I don't necessarily know that getting the money just to upgrade the catwalk will necessarily take care of it, because I think the plans that have been produced connect us to the other buildings so that they go from the
Good points.
catwalk into.
Good points.
It's about creating a perimeter first and then creating a permanent solution later. But doing that in this first phase would be cost prohibitive because the catwalk alone is going to be significant.
And
Madam Chair, I don't know if I was part of that conversation or if I was eavesdropping in that conversation, but I did overhear what Commissioner Walker's talking about. And I think maybe that's something we should ask our own folks, maybe Dr. Morgan, to look into and contact.
Formally reach out?
Yeah, and do that, because, I mean, that's going to be crucial, is we do need to get ownership of it before we start putting a lot of money into it, I mean, I would think.
Hopefully it won't be that difficult. It
Right,
doesn't sound
yeah.
like it'll be.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just never been asked before.
I thought we needed permission from DOT for something, when John and Dr. Morgan quit their conversation.
apologize, Madam Chair, I was asking if the current ADA, the current catwalk with its current ADA, it's got elevators on each side. Does it meet, and it has a ramp, but does it meet the current ADA standards? Because once you start spending money,
Ooh, good
a
point.
significant portion of money, you have to bring it all the way up to current standard. And that's why I was asking the question was, are we going to get this thing right the first time, or do we have to do it in phases?
I believe that has been taken into consideration in the design proposal.
So, I remember some discussion, I think, our joint council about close the catwalk. Does anybody remember that besides me? Did I make it up?
All I know is that, and I don't, this is just what I heard, is that we're not able to do that.
But it would be a DOT.
But also, if Dr. Morgan has already spoken to them about it, and the city does own it, I think, we say we could work out how, if you cross down there, where Rose Ice is, or down in the other one.
Yes.
It's not that far.
And now that you say that, that's a good question. I need to double check. It could be DOT versus the city, and I will double check that. In my mind, it was the
I
city.
remember that conversation as DOT, and we were in the conference room at central office.
Yeah. And if that's right, I apologize. I simply remember that, yes, part of the phase is acquiring ownership of it that is not owned by us, but we own the canopy.
The mayor's office formally, and asked them, hey, whatever you have, can we have it?
He said Madeline, and I don't remember her last name, but he said someone named Madeline who could do the research on it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, Ms. Barnhart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I know we had discussion with New Hanover High School and whether or not to include all the phases or one of the phases or two of the phases. And so I did want to bring to attention something that kind of got brushed over, and if we're looking at increasing the capacity of some of our schools and with the enrollment decline that we've seen, to potentially repurpose some of the land with the option of selling, that would allow us finances to help support further phases. I know there's been discussion, obviously our funding comes from the county, so county commissioners having that discussion as well, and endowment. So I'm uncomfortable pulling more into the bond ask, knowing that the phase 4 designs was to be done at one time, so kind of picking and choosing from different phases, I think would set us up to not be as successful as what the design process goes. But I did want to bring that to attention as the discussion of this. I think that we can see an opportunity to potentially reevaluate some of our facilities and be able to recoup some funding that would go back into the infrastructure for the school system. So I just wanted to put that out there because that's where I
Do
stand
we
on
know
it.
what the value is of Mary C. Williams, property-wise? You probably find that out in the
But,
county tax office.
Ms. Barnhart, I would say what you said, the first part, what you said, that we not pull from, was that in the form of a motion?
I'm happy to make one. I would move that we do not add more projects to what this committee had previously approved.
You mean not
To the
bring
bottom.
from any of the other phases up into one or making any swapping?
I would say any projects, including phases of,
Okay.
more phases of New Hanover or any other projects, not to exceed the total that has currently been voted on from the board.
I would second that for discussion purposes.
Not sure I
And is there
understand.
discussion?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand.
Well, when we first approved, my only reservation with just phase one was all this we're talking about from phase three for the catwalk, because that was one of my real desires. But I realized in the voting that it wasn't really a good idea to pull it out of three and put it into one. But I wanted to have this committee resolve in its mind, do we want to do anything else? Is there anything else? And then in phase 2, 3, or 4 that you feel passionate about that's been left out of one, now would be the time to say. So I either want to call it on or call it off. And Ms. Barnhart's motion would then apply not only to New Hanover, but to all the projects that this is set.
Regarding the catwalk itself, if I remember the phase 3 correctly, it was including the building of a building on the east, whatever, north side of the campus that would connect the catwalk to.
True.
So, right. So I think that's why it was initially started to resolve the perimeter and then create the space later on. So I don't know as if, it wouldn't be just the catwalk, it would be the connecting things on either side as well.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. Once I realized that, I agreed. But I didn't want to walk away from this meeting today with anybody else having something else in another phase that they feel passionately about that we have not discussed, because we need to start shutting some doors and move forward with what we're doing. And then both of our boards have to approve this after we're done. So,
Ms. Bradford?
yes.
Just a question, a point of clarification. I think the board has already voted on
Yes.
this, so if the vote, if this committee can come back and say, we want to do blah, 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 we'd have to go back
Right.
to the board and
Right.
ask the board to change what they've already voted on. So,
Exactly.
okay. Just want to clarify that.
But before we
Beat
have
you
the
to
county
it.
vote, we need to be solid, not only as a committee, but as our board, that this is it. That's what I'm trying to get
Ms.
to.
Bradford, I might just say wait until we have the joint meeting, because you might get questions that, obviously, I'm not here, Rob's not here, he's more of a builder type. I mean, I don't understand all of it. I mean, if it's cost effective to do something that's in a different phase, maybe you would want to do that, but I don't know. And I might want to wait and see what other people.
Yeah, and it's not that big of a deal. I just wanted to make sure the air was cleared. So let's move on to the other ones, and just so that we're clear on what is. Trask Middle School, 1,000-student middle school to replace the existing Trask Middle School. New middle school we built on the CTEC campus off Sidbury Road. The existing population at Trask would be relocated to the new building and provide classroom space for expansion. The existing TMS building would become part of Lanning High School campus. This will help alleviate traffic concerns and provide additional high school capacity. That's awesome.
Ms. Bradford, I have a question, and it's not necessarily a construction question. Logistically, would that mean you'd have to maybe redistrict a little bit? Because you think where the location of that will be is, I mean, Holly Shelter's way up in Castle. I mean, this is kind of up there as well.
Yeah, I think you would experience the same thing that once, that would be a reassessment of all the capital areas.
Right, okay. I mean, would they be cost related to transport and things like that? I mean, that would be in operations more than anything. Yes. No, I know it's a lot to think about because, I mean, I guess it doesn't really pertain to the construction part of this, but if, for example, the district, once it's built, whenever that is, you're going to probably need more for transportation. Just keep that in your mind.
Yeah, that is our most expensive project, but it does touch so many students.
I think that project in particular is going to help tremendously with the traffic
Yes.
over in Lady and Trask. And we've brainstormed and we've talked about different ways to try to help curb that and keep kids safe. I mean, because if you're over there in the afternoon, you are seeing a lot of Frogger happen, even with the best of,
I experienced that.
even with the best crosswalk helpers that we have. But
And I've seen this one out there directly.
yeah, so I mean, if we take the population of individual students at Trask, and they're no longer there, and it's the same amount of kids that are currently already going to Laney, I think that's going to help with the flow tremendously.
I was just talking about transportation, busing.
the operating
To
costs.
track, the track that's out there.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all I was talking about.
And when we do get this done, both Danny and Kim and I will be doing the Julie Andrews spin on top of a mountain dance in the parking lot.
You and
to
everyone
resolve
else,
that traffic
Dr.
issue.
Barnes.
I can't wait to see that video.
If I may, real quickly, I have confirmed that the catwalk is DOT, not the city, so I apologize. But to your point, Mr. Wildebohr, I'm happy to initiate those conversations. Thank you.
All right, are we ready to move on from Trask? Next is River Lights. And we do have the proposal from the 2020 era, the schematics, and so on for these next, well, these three, River Lights, Pine Valley. But River Lights says a new 650-student elementary school to be built within the River Lights development. This project will take the place of renovating, rebuilding Mary C. Williams, and some punctuation there, and help maximize capacity in this region of the county. So that's lovely.
Ms. Bradford, did you want to potentially put in additional information on what will happen to Mary C. Williams? Okay.
I don't have an opinion. Do y'all?
Well, I don't know. I just feel like Ms. Barnes' point about like money saving thing, I mean, that potentially could be something that could help pay for the River Lights area.
So
I don't know what the value of Mary C. Williams is, or if you want to sell it,
it will be a vote of our board.
right?
The idea of bringing funds back into the program.
Just think about it, whether or not you want that in the wording. Sorry. No, don't.
Ooh, yes.
Will it? No, will it? I didn't know that.
Me either.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
The builds for all of our, both new elementary schools are going to be zoned and built for pre-K accessible as well.
I love that.
Yeah, so that would also apply to Pine Valley. All right. So we can ask Dr. Barnes' team to come up with the language about a possible sale of the land, rather than us create it ourselves. And then Pine Valley, a new 650-student elementary school to be built on the existing campus to replace the current school. This project is needed to address safety issues of the existing building, such as the pod configuration and exterior circulation.
Ms. Bradford, will that have pre-K in it?
Yeah, I'm thinking you need a word there between exterior and circulation, student or population or people, because circulation could be lots of things.
Ms. Bradford, I'm sorry to go back, but to River Lights, didn't you mention alleviating overcapacity in other schools as well with River Lights?
Oh, yes, yes. Wherever we're alleviating capacity, that needs to be added.
And adding pre-K.
Since the demolition cost was already in this estimate, it needs to be in there as well, as far as type of the project.
Okay?
Can I ask a question to my colleague?
Sure.
Do you think there needs to be a specific tell of where the capacity at, or just say capacity alleviation of other buildings?
I think it'd be kind of cool is to have, if we go back to that map, have like, this color is direct impact. This color is, benefit. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could really color this a lot of different ways. So you could have River Lights and then it be orange. And then the schools that would be benefited by it could be blue or something like that.
Yeah, and if there are significant, I don't know enough about those other schools, but if it is like Maine and Trask, it's important to know that new Trask building will help Maine significantly. So if it's going to impact those other schools, that it will come in.
It's a good point, really good point. And I'm taking notes, and where does this document live? Is this your document, or is this Dr. Morgan's document? Whose document is this?
It's a shared document.
Okay. Okay, then I'll give you, oh, you're making notes too, okay. All right, Pine Valley, the project will also, pardon? Go ahead, Paul. Since we're talking about your school.
I want to make a point that the verbiage for Pine Valley would be applicable to River Lights as well. So if everything it's for Pine Valley would apply to River Lights as well.
Good point, Paul.
I think the discussion from last committee meeting was the justification to say that River Lights was a new build was that it was not on the exact same piece of land, like Pine Valley will be on the same plot of land. But I agree with your sentiment, because that's the purpose of River Lights.
So
You could on Pine Valley put a point that student population does not have to be relocated during the build, something like that. Because there's a cost associated with moving the kids off campus to build a school, which, for example, when they did Wrightsville Beach, they had to move them to the church and other places.
But there won't be any associated cost because all of these builds happen.
Yeah, everything stays in sight, doesn't it?
Right.
Okay, so that maybe not.
So my question is, this is for the public, correct? All this wording we want to, but it's not what's going to fit
This
on
is
the...
PR marketing media.
No, that's correct. On the bond referendum, though, Eric, do you know what, like, you gave us an example of what it would look like on the ballot. Would it just list all the different projects on the referendum, on the actual ballot?
I think the referendum ballot itself would probably just, it's got to be pretty brief, so it's just going to give the major project, but I think there'll be other documents we produce that certainly there can be more detail in that we can reference.
So this is just for our purposes to go out and market it into the world, have a website where we will hold everything.
Yeah. If I remember, the ballot just has, like NHCS school bond referendum. And maybe the dollar amount. Amanda, is that right? Something like that?
It'll be brief. It'll call a question to approve total amount, and if there's any tax increase, it'll have what that is at, and have a little brief part about maybe the projects touch everywhere, but it would be brief. It would not have a full list that I'm aware of, but
So the county does.
For the ballot, it'll be in negotiation with LGC.
I wondered about that. Huh. All right, so can we leave River Lights and Pine Valley and look at Porter's Neck? Porter's Neck looks a little skimpy for me. An 8-classroom addition to provide additional classroom space for a growing population of students in this region of the county.
I would say this will address overcrowding issues,
And
or capacity issues.
and I assume the cafeteria and all the other facilities at school are designed to handle this increase in population?
Yeah, it was built, but the thing that to me is a selling point is, A, it's $7.6 billion when everything else is double digits, but that whoever did this knew that they were going to have to expand, so they have the corridor sitting there, dead ending, that this will tee off of, and I think that's an important point, that it's, I don't know what the language would be, but it's like pre-prepped for this addition. You know what I'm saying? It had to have been.
It has to, 'cause we're getting
What I'm saying
trailers.
is, if you had 8 classrooms with kids, is the cafeteria going to be able to handle the influx?
You have trailers approved, so I assume so.
But they wouldn't have created a dead-end corridor to take on this addition.
I understand that. I went to Laney when they did the addition in the 1980s, so.
It will create a logistical problem to solve, but not an insurmountable one.
Okay.
More lunches. More lunches, yeah.
All right, so we're going to add the capacity language there. And at our next meeting, we can look at this again. All right, so then we're moving on to the district-wide, and I would say, please break it out into the 20, 10, and 10 and explain each one. And definitely make sure that we explain that it touches every single campus, theoretically.
Okay, this may not be for this discussion, but I want everybody to think about, like, I know the endowment, it specifically in the documents talks about technology for education. So I don't know whether or not they would entertain that, and it could come off here. And I don't know if that's good or
What a
bad
lovely
or
idea.
indifferent. I'm just saying, it's in their documents, and if they would entertain even chance of providing money for technology for schools, why would we not ask? I'm going to ask. I mean, why not? It's in there.
And I will say that we have marketing people and groups that will do this work too. You guys don't need to worry about the flash. We will get that. So.
And with that said, Ms. Barnhart, Mr. Wildebohr, and I spoke with the chair of the alumni for New Hanover last week, and they are very interested in helping us with that portion of promoting the bond. And then Dr. Barnes has been with the chamber and heard something similar. Natalie's not here to speak to it, but he had an enormously positive response at the chamber for helping us. So the entities that will help us in moving this forward during that period between, all of next year through to the November ballot, we have to now draw them in. And so the alumni meet, I think it's the third Thursday, and I know that Ms. Barnhart, Mr. Wildebohr, and I had already asked and been invited to come, but I put in the ask this morning that everybody on this committee be invited to come to listen to what they do, meet those people, because there are people that are going to be out in the community also, because the New Hanover alumni want to see us approve this bond. And so they're going to be a great marketing force for us out there.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad that you spotted that. There are a lot of alumni that are very passionate about the school.
If you look at that thing that I
Very
gave
much.
you from 2014 on the rules and regs, New Hanover County Schools cannot use its fund to promote a bond referendum, but may use its funds to pay for preparation and dissemination of information materials and pertaining to a school bond referendum. So we can't spend money. Yeah. So I thought that's one of the reasons why I gave you that 2014 sheet, because I'd heard Ms. Barnhart say that, but I didn't know where she'd gotten it. And we can advocate for it, even though we get whoever worded this, we get a modest stipend for serving the Board of Education. I think it's kind of cute. So we have to keep that in mind. And Ms. Barnhart had suggested, and I think it's a wonderful idea, we just have to figure out who's going to pay for it, is to put a sign in front of every school saying, the 2026 bond will pay for these things at the school, and list them all.
Dr. Morgan's job, Ashley's job, the principal's, my job will be informational. Advocacy will come from space, so we will work together with that. You're going to see us doing a lot of informational sessions, a lot of comparing and sharing information with the community, but the advocacy pieces will come from our other partners.
Well said.
Eric, does that mean county commissioners cannot do it either?
My understanding is the county commissioners do not advocate, they provide information.
Okay, so this is tied to dollars. So like, I don't want to spend money, but I'm saying, can I not advocate for it without spending money? Like, can I talk to people or not?
Again, my understanding, this is from the last transportation bond we put out, is county commissioners and anything coming from official county government is supposed to be neutral on it.
Okay. We'll talk about more of that
Okay.
later. Because,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I remember the 2014 because I was a member of the Wilmington Rotary Club, and they did the circuit. They did every Rotary Club, a Kiwanis Club, they did every club. And if the chamber's running point on this, they'll come up with the marketing dollars to do that. Whatever advocacy you need, if the chamber ends up doing that. But in my role, we'll certainly do a town hall and an executive committee meeting, because the committee meeting is the committee is the one that makes the decision. But we'll certainly welcome you and open the door. But I think that the information, I think the commissioners and the Board of Education can do information. The chamber does the advocacy. So everybody's got a certain color hat.
I think that's right.
And that reminds me, see, they have, you've got the list of the 2014 bond committee members. And again, reach out to them and ask them, what was the hardest thing? What was the easiest thing? If you know people on that list. But the committee had a list of, I think it was 6 to 8 people, speakers that would then go. Let's say the Rotary needed somebody to come and talk about the bond. Well, first thing you say, oh, we'll send Dr. Barnes, but he can't do them all. So anyway, the bond committee had identified people who were kind of authorized to speak and trained on speaking for, and then they went out to different civic groups and community groups and church groups and whatever, and did the talking part. So we as a committee can do that, or we can choose not to, but it doesn't, it makes sense to me to do it, so that, you know, where we might just have some points, but he's going to have the full package, and whoever else is designated to speak to it in the groups. But we should identify those people and not have it be random.
Again, I think the first step is bringing this to the commissioners, getting it committed to the bond before we make the steps. But we'll have several different interest groups that will be in support. There's PTAs, there's booster clubs, there's the chamber, there's the GOP, there's plenty of folks who I think will be on the advocating side of this.
I agree. This is, my idea is to have, we have one more meeting scheduled, and then we're going to skip December and half of January. So we won't remember any of this when we come back in February. So I want to get some of this just discussed so you'll be thinking about it. And while we have Commissioner Zappel who's here now, I did speak to the county about if you can't find a date, that we have a date already set for this committee on the 18th. And if I'm not mistaken, it's earlier. It's at 10:30. I think that's the one is at 10:30. But that we could give up our time slot because we have 2 of you here and we have 3 of us here. So we're halfway there in getting county commissioner and board people and all the other supporting staff into the room. So we could identify a December meeting date that we might want to just tie up loose ends in or not and let this be the last. But that was, I proposed that to her this morning just because herding this many cats between your board and our board is really hard. And then
Well,
staff and all the meetings.
The board clerk is working on it. I know
Yes.
she's got at least 2 of us.
I talked to her this morning.
And I'm available for all of them. I think somebody else's, I don't know about.
Yeah, but if it works for your board to combine, and I said, is there any way that we can bring our board and your board and our staff together and then let other committee members who want to come and attend and listen and be available for questions? For example, if somebody had a question of Paul or Kim or Philip specific to their school, they'd be right there. Because rather than that, then we have to come back and report to the committee what happened at the joint meeting between county and school board. So it made sense to me for you guys to just show up. So, anyway, this is logistics. Yes.
Until November, December. We're already at this point here. Would strongly suggest we try and pull it together by the end of October. We've got 2 more weeks here. And I know that seems like light speed, but the education portion of it, to me, and I think I've been pretty vocal about that, is got to get focused. And, so that we have a plan that will, without doubt, get out throughout all corners and edges of New Hanover County. So I just hate waiting for us as 2 boards. We already know the framework of what we want to say. Can't we find a time between now and the end of October? I couldn't agree with you more about herding cats on this, but we're already there. It's, why are we're losing time, I feel. And if the school board is willing and the staff, I'm more than happy, and I've already mentioned it to our county clerk, can we put this on full warp speed or wherever you want to get this done? There's got to be a time. And I'll say the absolute horrible thing, I don't even mind meeting on a Saturday morning. That's how important I believe this is. I saw your eyes go wide. I know that means extra time for everyone there. This
We
is a
get overtime
huge
pay
deal
for
for our
that.
community, and it's a ton of money. The quicker we move on this, I think we'll be able to coordinate.
Well, I would think that would come, I mean, your board invited our board, so I think that has to go back to your people to say, your chair and Kim, and then they talk to Crystal and Ashley and Dr. Barnes.
I know that Crystal and Kim have been in conversation. Chris called, Mr. Boudre called me. I think that right now we're just trying to align schedules together. So
I'm
sure
available.
I
I'll
will
make
make
myself
myself available whenever, but I want to trust those people that are already doing that work to resolve that.
You're right, Chris. I don't want to step in anybody's way on that. But I think there's an urgency to this next meeting. And
Personally, I'd love to see it in October, so it's
Yeah.
just, but it's your people that are doing it and inviting us.
Just got to make sure the school board is available.
Yes, Mr. Wildebohr.
I was just going to agree with Mr. Commissioner Zappel. I think it is very important that we go ahead and get it done, sooner than later, because it may be, more than one meeting. I think it probably will be more than one meeting, so.
Good point.
The more we can get going, and get the ball rolling, the better off we'll be, so. And I think we just need to try to find a date, and if we can't get 100% of our folks there, then we just get 85% of our folks there and move forward and keep the other people involved and take good notes.
Will you take that back to your crowd?
Sure. I'm not sure when the right time is, but I've got a comment on New Hanover High School that you and I have briefly discussed, and I'll just wait
Yes.
till you tell me when the appropriate time is.
I think we're ready for that. I mean, I think we're ready for that, yes.
Okay. I expressed to her briefly, the one thing I just want to make sure on New Hanover High School is it's phase one, which includes no renovations to the main building. We've just done a major project on the front side of the back building. I don't know what the condition of the middle and the back part of the building is. If it needs renovations anytime in the next 10 years, this is the time to include it in a bond. The debt capacity presentation that we went over was kind of a 15-year, it was a long-term schedule. And so I heard one of the Board of Education meetings a suggestion that maybe in 3 or 4 years, the Board of Education could come back to the county commissioners and ask for the phase two, the renovation part, but that's not part of the long-term plan, and that would add to the debt capacity that's already been taken up with this particular bond. So there's certain structural aspects to New Hanover High School that are critical to address in the next 10 or so years. I think that needs to somehow be considered and possibly put into this, whether it's swapped in for something else or not, I'm not sure. 320 is sort of the max and that I'm comfortable with. That doesn't mean we can't go above that, but I would see it replaced somehow. At the last meeting, the chair mentioned somehow kind of blending a little bit phase two and phase one. And that's sort of what I thought was going to occur, was the critical structural aspects of phase two would be moved into phase one, or perhaps something in phase one would be dropped out as far as a priority list. So.
We touched on that a little bit earlier, and I didn't feel like there was an aptitude for it, but again, let's talk about it, because what we don't want to do is come back after and have sour grapes, really, of where we're at.
That's why I'm glad Rob is here. Because you weren't here during the first part of this conversation, because
Yes.
we were talking about the catwalk specifically, but how that's kind of in a different phase, like some of it's in phase one, some of it's like in phase three or whatever. But if it's if it benefits for the cost, cheaper to do it like sooner, or that's just one example, but to Eric's point about the rest of that building, it's beautiful in the front, but I mean,
Phase two was almost entirely renovation
Yes.
of that building. It was $75 million. I don't want to have happen is just do $320
Right.
million, but our bond in 3 years from now, we got $75 million in repairs we got to do for Hanover High School.
And the
I
backside's
can
collapsing.
speak to some of that. A lot of that has to do with building system upgrades. And so as far as it being recommended for phase two and following over the LS3P, to me the question I presented was, I have to assume that if you felt like phase two were truly the priority, it would have been phase one. And they said that's correct. We felt like the things that need to take place that they're recommending for phase two are a lot of it is system upgrades. There's some structural things that will need to be addressed in time. And my question was, well, how much time? Because to your point, we don't know that we'll be able to come back in 4 years. And the response was, that's not the concern. Some of the things that they have put in there that they said, could be addressed along the way with our operating budget through maintenance, some of the upgrades that we're looking at for the systems. And when I'm saying that, I mean electrical, plumbing, mechanical, HVAC. So I don't think the concern, to your point, Mr. Corrado, I don't think the concern is that we're going to have another emergency pop up that's got to be addressed. We should have seen it now. Does that make sense?
That's helpful.
Okay.
Dr. Barnes?
Also, it's a shell game, okay? If we want to hide the P under another shell, we need another shell first. So phase one builds an extra building that gives us the capacity and the space to then do phase two while the students are still on campus. So that was another reason for the way that the phases were ordered.
So can I follow up that with phase two? Where's that coming from? Because it's not going to be able to be done in a bond again. You might not have the answer to that, but we all got to think about that, because if we're trying to roll into another phase, we need another plan. Just, that's for everybody.
You know, it's interesting, and this is next on the agenda, but to talk just for a minute about Isaac Bear. And I got deep into that, and now I'm in it, in terms of doing some research. And this is another one of those, the county, as I understand it, the county is supposed to pay for capital improvements of the schools. The state pays for the staff, and the federal does whatever the federal does. And so, you know, if we have a capital need, if the building is falling down, then we have to look to the county for it. No one else is going to want to pick up that pot of money. And then we have this endowment over here, which is supposed to be, you know, for schools, it's one of its main pillars, and yet, you know, we can't look to them for infrastructure. And so it's not my problem seems to be common in both these issues. But at some point, we have to address it, and I think that's kind of what Eric is alluding to. And Amanda has her hand up, so she's going to correct me, I can tell.
It would be a lot easier to address anything that comes up in the course of time if we didn't have 100-some million of operating costs for the schools. So yes, our requirement is absolutely schools and capital, but we are also putting 100 million, more than 100 million, towards school operations. We could all think about what $100 million could do today for the schools. So I think, yes, that's why we have to think about it. Our bond capacity is about to be maxed out, to the point where we may have to do policy changes. So if something were to come up, what's the plan? Because do you forego 100 million in your operating for us to then cover it?
Oh, that can't happen.
But I'm just saying that it's give and take, because we are in a political climate where we're not raising taxes. So with us capping out our bond capacity, that is something you have to think about, while capital will be what we are required to fund, your operating will not.
Or we may have to decide to look at projects that are citywide too and decide where the level is too.
Hang on, I've got, is your hand up? Okay. John's was up, and John, and then Josie, and then Walker, if that's the order there. Thank you.
Among the policy decisions you mentioned, does that include increasing the per capita debt?
Yes, that's
Okay.
one of the items that we are looking at with the bond presentation, that going through at this level, are we going to need to raise our policy for debt per capita?
And right now, we're at 2,200?
Yes.
And what is there an estimate, ballpark, what we think we have to increase it by?
Oh, yeah, we've got that. You know, it peaks out at 2643. It's above 2,200 for 3 years. So we've talked about, you know, waiving the policy for a short period, 3 years or so, and then getting back in when, you know, subsequently thereafter.
John, are you done? Ms. Barnhart?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that, because I thought the reason why we picked this number at the last committee meeting was that we were not going to have to pressure the commissioners to change policy. And so now I'm confused. If this number is saying that we're going to have to change policy, that was different. And one of the committee members who I don't think is present currently today, we stressed that very much. It is not our job to be changing county policy. It's our job to be working within what we have. And so I'm confused if this 320 number is making us go over policy to push back. So then I'm frustrated, why were we even presented that as an option? If that's where it's being stated now that this is going to change policy for the county.
And my clarification of that is what Eric just said, that they're talking about waiving the policy for 3 years or so, which is just a temporary thing, so that we can hit, because then it pops back out after 3 years. So I think Amanda's saying that if we are going to ask for $75 million next year, the year after, that would require a policy change, a big one. Am I
The
correct?
15-year plan was built on assumptions, and so the assumption was in 2034 there'd be a big county project to be necessary. We tried to take all contingencies into account. At that time, if it does pan out like that, it may or may not be needed, but at the time it panned out like that, it is needed. We were saying that we thought there might be some comfort level at the county commissioner board if there's a near-term prospect to bring it back in compliance, to temporarily waive it for a few years, and that's a decision they'll have to make. But from a finance officer perspective, that doesn't seem like an unreasonable recommendation to make.
You're talking about 10 years from now.
That's right.
Right, if a project comes up within the county. Doesn't pertain to this amount right now.
Okay, that's what I was confused by, of saying that this amount that we just approved and now having to change policy.
It will not immediately put us out of policy.
So then my follow-up with that, and I hear what the colleague is saying about the operating expenses, because these projects help us to increase capacity in elementary school, which in discussions of what is that ideal number of students in a school that we can staff the way we want to, so we're not having part-time staff split between multiple campuses. And that number is between 500 and 600 for an elementary school. So some of our elementary schools are not even built to that capacity, meaning they cannot even get to that maximum students that we need to keep a full-time staff of full-time art teacher, full-time nurse, full-time this, that, etc. And so this allows for the school board to have the opportunity to say, let's reevaluate our spaces such that we are optimizing our spaces and potentially recuperate some finances. Because the only way that we get money is by asking for it from the county, from the state, from grants, from the endowment. I mean, the endowment is a grant in itself, but those are the only means that we have the availability to get funding. And so we're going to, in my opinion, continue to explore all avenues of funding, and that potentially is reevaluating our operating so that we can optimize it. Not firing staff, not getting rid of them, but just saying re-optimize how can we do things in a more efficient way.
Operating costs.
Yeah, that has to happen.
Yeah.
So we've got about 12 minutes left, and we still need to have a minute to talk about Isaac Bear. Let me tell you what I found out in my digging there. And so if we can focus towards wrapping this up and then move on. So Commissioner Zappel?
Well, I'll be interested in your comments on Isaac Bear, because just one quick thought among the others that are here. I don't think there's anybody in this room who would build a house on somebody else's property. And that is going to be a major sticking point for the county. I'll leave that alone. Back to the bond issue. I think as part of the education, this is a softer portion of that, but I think a really important one, because remember, we have to go in front of the voters, is we have this spectacular new facade of New Hanover High School. And the second that a kid comes in as a freshman or as a senior and goes in the bathrooms in that building and comes home and reports to their parents that I would never use the bathroom, which is what happens today, or if in their classrooms they have cracked tile or there's cracks in the wall. In other words, I think that the need for the renovation of the classrooms is as important as it was for the front facade, albeit the facade was falling off, so maybe there's a little more priority to that. I also think that the numbers that we're dealing with, and and Rob, I heard very carefully what you're saying, is a lot of that renovation work in the classrooms is tied up with infrastructure, electrical, plumbing, and stuff that has to tear open some of those walls to get it fixed along the way, and ductwork for HVAC, and that complicates it. But I know the numbers we're using right now, and I think I've spoken a couple times at this committee about, is I feel like we've reached the point where we don't need architect, per square foot numbers. We need to have numbers that are based in reality, so that a construction firm, I'll pull Monteith out. I have no, like that, but if we go to Monteith and say, if we give you $320 or $330 million, can you produce the new cafeteria, the music room, and get the renovation of those classrooms done? In other words, real negotiation. And Rob, I know I'm jumping way ahead and you're going, oh my God, what is this guy? Don't do this to me. But I think that we are at that point, we're talking about dollars. I think that the dollars we have on the table now will go a lot farther in the reality of what the project is, but only if we, as a committee, say, these are the projects we want done. Here is the maximum amount of money we have to make this happen. Can you make it happen? If they say no, then we go to Thomas Construction. If they say no, we go, and there's a variety of larger ones that are here. It's just another way of going at it, which I wish we had all the money in the world, but we don't. But I think that it is critical that we address the renovations of the classrooms in Building A or the main building, whatever you want to call it. Those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So if I can put that into my words, you're saying bargain the pricing down, the estimates down, so that we could add New Hanover High School renovations from phase 2. Is that a correct way of saying that?
Yes, which I know throws a little bit of a wrench into the works at this point. But I think, in pushing it out to the public, that we talk about the projects that we want done. Here is our goal, and here is the dollar amount. I just feel very confident we're going to be able to take $320 million and get more done than what we are looking at now. All those numbers that the architects are giving us at this point are based on square foot numbers. Now,
The only,
go ahead, Rob. Yeah.
sorry, the only counter argument I would make to that is regarding New Hanover. Keep in mind, our information from Hanover is pulled from that $300,000 study that was paid for. That's not just estimates like the other projects.
That's them either going in and actually pulling wall sections down to look and see what's behind.
Correct. And so there were a lot of vendors involved in that process and looking at the entire picture. So that's the only thing I wanted to throw out.
I didn't mean for a second to belittle LS3P, who I think is doing a great job. I was just trying to be creative.
No, I understand.
At the base of what I'm saying is we've got to address those renovations of those classrooms, or I think we're going to get pushback from the community and certainly those parents and the students who are going to a place where they don't feel comfortable walking into the bathroom, which they don't.
Is it the classroom or the bathroom? Is the bathroom the primary concern?
Yes and yes. I've heard both. So I guess I use the bathroom because it's something more visceral, and certainly that's how it comes to me when people are excited or angry.
I just had two go through Hanover, and one's excuse was safety. It wasn't the cleanliness of the bathroom, it was their safety. Yeah. And so, but I recognize the bathrooms need renovation or modernization.
Yeah.
But that's, and the reason for my question was, can we pick one? Or do we have to do both? Because everything else on here, I think these projects were chosen geographically for countywide benefit.
And I'm totally supportive, John.
Ms. Bradford.
Yes, but I think Dr. Barnes is next.
Go ahead.
But Jared, you can
I'm
do
not
it.
going to try to speak for Mr. Sutton. He's way more eloquent than I am. But I would say one of the things that he looked at when talking about phase one versus phase two was that phase one in its creation of some new area for students could alleviate some of the congestion that's felt in some of the main buildings, some of the capacity issues that they have with the cafeteria, some of the capacity issues that they have with space in general. And yeah, maybe to put it a little bit crude, if you have 100 people using the same bathroom over and over in your house, that's going to be the bathroom that has to be repaired. But if you can spread that out across more rooms, then it alleviates some of the stressors that are on those facilities, on those electrical, on those mechanical facilities that are happening, and plumbing in that one building. I believe that was why the phase one was kind of looked at the way it was. I don't want to disagree with you, though, that there are always opportunities to improve spaces. Agreed.
Thank you.
I was in New Hanover High School this morning, and I will tell you that 99.9% of every day, students there are working hard and going to class. I want us to build a plan that creates as much of a dedication to safety, perimeter control, and learning as the staff at that school is already doing. We got opinions from the staff, we got opinions from the students, we brought Philip into this conversation. I think that we need to remember that New Hanover High School didn't get the way it was in a year. It's gotten that way over 100 years, and the solution may take more than 1 year to fix. I think that creating a systemic long-term plan is the right goal. Now, of course, we're bringing to the commissioners our plan. If you guys as a commissioners want to say that's not enough money, or we want to add to it, or we want to do it in a certain way, then we obviously will pivot and come back to you. We are trying to make the best long-term plan. Now, I think something Ms. Barnhart said I think is really critical. Once we have new spaces, it gives us the bandwidth to reevaluate our older spaces that may or may not be the best suitable environment for students. But we need new spaces to be able to have the ability to do that. Same with New Hanover. I don't want to rip apart all of their classrooms and fix all the maintenance and the infrastructure when I don't have a place to put those students, because that disrupts their education. So I think this is a well thought out plan, but as commissioners, if you guys say, I promise you, if you say that's not enough money and we want to give you more, I will be right behind that. And I will support that 100%. But I think this is a well thought out, balanced plan that I think doesn't overburden the community, doesn't overburden our taxpayers, and also gets us a lot farther down the road than we've been in a long, long time.
Well said.
Eric, did you want to say something? Okay. Can I just follow up, Ms. Brown? Oh, do we want to go
Yeah,
ahead and make a motion?
I'm going to move, extend by 15 minutes. Can you do that?
Yeah.
I want to talk about Isaac Bear for just a minute, and then we have to talk about calendar. So,
We got a second here.
okay, motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, motion carries.
Bradford, I just
Yes,
want
ma'am.
before we start on Isaiah, I just wanted to follow up. I think, and I might be wrong, what Commissioner Zapp was saying is, and what I have heard is, the front is beautiful, and I don't know how far that goes in, but we don't want to ignore if there's anything that's very, very important in the back side of that building. It's either, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly beautiful, all but as long as it's safe and, you know, and there are doors on the bathroom stalls. I don't know. But I just think that's what I've been hearing too. Like, and I think that's what we heard from Principal Sutton last time. Just as the front looks really, really good, and it does.
Oh, boy, does it ever.
Yeah, it's beautiful. We just don't want to ignore the rest of it. So if that's a conversation you want to expand on, we can. I don't know what the cost looks like, but I agree with Dr. Barnes as well. It'll alleviate some of the spacing problems and issues on the other side of the campus, and then you can look at that and evaluate it. But anyway,
Ms. Barnhart?
Final just question of clarity is looking at the debt capacity and staying under. The whole point when we were doing this exercise was we wanted to ensure that we were not forcing policy changes. So in the trajectory of the budget, is it allocated $4 million for capital for the next 10 years, or what does that look like? Because when it comes to the funding of the next stage, on our end, we have to ask for money wherever it comes from, right? So if we're able to secure money from the state, that's great. We can put it in for infrastructure. But from the county budget, was that built out in the budget, looking at that, of just saying we're having the same amount? just like you said, if we had operating, if we could reevaluate our operating, to have some better optimization and potentially lessen operation costs, then we could put more into capital, then we might be able to recoup $6 or $7 million towards capital. Do you see what I'm saying? I guess I'm trying to like look to see what is the estimation of the capital from the county and currently as it looks.
So I would say there's a few conversations or a few pieces of that there. This is more bond and debt related.
Right.
Then you have your annual capital contribution from us, which is cash funded, and then your operating, which is also basic cash funded.
Right.
So we hold steady. Normally when I'm creating the budget for the next year, I hold steady at your current year
Okay.
amount and then wait to hear from the board on what is going to happen and what projects are sent over, and then we figure out where we're comfortable with that. Like I know this past year we had a much higher ask come in and we brought it down. So it's sort of that situation that I at minimum hold steady year over year, and then the negotiations happen to where your annual capital is set.
Okay, and that, in my thought process, that's what I was thinking through, of just what's that number to anticipate over that next 10 years, so that as we're making a plan to continue to do the work, right? So that's where my head was coming from. So that helps answer my question.
As a quick follow-up to that, Eric, what does $50 or $100 per capita reflect on a current ask? In other words, does that question make sense? Is there a way to translate that? Because we're talking about, I think you said 2,346 per capita. What does 436 per capita look like? Is that $320 million?
$50 additional per capita is $12 million.
Okay.
That's taking $50 times 240,000 residents.
So it's $50 equals what?
12 million.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't even think about that question. I'm glad you brought it up, because there's a bond discussion and there's also the annual give. And I guess because we haven't started the new budget year, we don't know what the ask is from the county for capital needs. But do you say you base it on last
I
year's
mean, the
ask?
average is usually in the $3 to $6 million range, somewhere
Okay.
3 to 5, 3 to 6, something like
Okay.
that has been the average, I would say, over the
That adds
past
into it
decade.
as well. Well, if we reduce
Yeah.
it just for that reason, if it's already expected, I hate
But
doing that.
but I think the analysis with the assumptions you have is that $436 increase per capita will be reduced back down to $2,200 in 3 years. Okay.
Okay, let's talk just for a quick second, because in the bond discussion, people are going to say, well, what about Isaac Bear? What about Isaac Bear? What about Isaac Bear? So we will need to be prepared on that. And I had a complete blank on Isaac Bear in terms of, didn't really understand the history of it at all. So I sat down with our board clerk, or well, she's actually not our clerk. She's, has a vast institutional knowledge, Krista Bowie. And the first classes at Isaac Bear were held at the old Snipes building on Chestnut, 2006. Yes. So then the General Assembly in Raleigh rolled out an early college plan. And from what I understand, and I have not confirmed this, and I'm working on a timeline because I work real well in timelines, and it's just at the draft point right now, and I can't even share it because I speak my things in and then I go back and correct. It's faster than my hands can do. But it looks like there was joint New Hanover County Schools, the university, the state, and then the Gates Foundation founded 28 early learning colleges in the United States, which were in North Carolina. I have to confirm that fact, but it's an interesting fact. But then how we got from Chestnut Street to where we are now is still a little bit gray for me. But that one building has been in use since 2007 off of McMillan, contiguous with the university's campus. But we found emails between Eddie Anderson and the board chair and so on, and we went back and So the governor was Mike Easley, and he said, he sent some representatives down and said, UNCW, why don't you have your early college established at this point? So there was some pressure to get it done and to get it done quickly. And then when Hurricane Florence came through, Doble Hall was damaged, and there were 3 modular units that had a science lab and so on. And the information I've gotten is it was good admin space, good classroom space, but it was about $1.5 million modification to make it to where Isaac Bear could use it and relocate the modular units to the property behind the Taco Bell where that movie theater is. It's been there kind of abandoned for so long. So that was the 2019 period. But what's interesting about Isaac Bear is that Senator Michael Lee went to the state legislature and asked for a little over $900,000 to create the plan that we have now for what would happen with Isaac Bear, that big, thick, and if you want the copy, then she has it. And he got that approved, and by the time it was appropriated, it was $1 million. But the key thing that I was missing in the timeline was Michael Lee didn't get reelected in 2018. And by 2019, the word was, I wrote it down because it was interesting, the avalanche started, particularly in New Hanover County Schools, because the superintendent at the time was Tim Markley. His wife was diagnosed with cancer. And then just a few months later, Mr. Frank's news broke, and all of the scandal then broke, and things just stopped happening. Apparently, Dr. Markley, I'd only met him a couple of times, apparently had a very strong personality, and he and the chancellor weren't seeing eye to eye on Isaac Bear. And the stipulations are that we would handle, the school district would handle Isaac Bear, but the college got to dictate what it looked like on the exterior. And there was some disagreement on that. And so if you want some of that, I can share it. It's just interesting, and I'm putting it together so we're going to know about that. But I did find, and I want to put this out there for y'all, because I can read something one way and you can read it another way, but I have UNC Policy Manual 400.6.1R, adopted August 7th, 2006. Regulation for establishment of early college high school on UNCW campuses. So this is UNC policy for the state, the regulation. Number 6, let me read it to you. First sentence, the early college will be located on the campus of the university, which will provide sufficient classroom and related space for the high school academic programs. Now, what does that say to you? Because that's an interesting document.
It says to me that they want it there and they might pay for it.
Well, again, Mr. Zappel's point, I'm not going to build my house on your land. That's another point. But I'll be honest, I think this thing got really political. And then disaster happened in our school district. We had administration change. The university had administration change, and it just fell through the cracks. But they're sitting in a building right now that's been used since 2007.
And they're about done.
So
they're about done.
I think as a county and a school district, we have to address it, not as a part of the bond, but we do have to address it or we just, as one person, because I'm talking to people off the record, I'm not going to tell you who I'm talking to, but one person said, look, just take those students and assimilate them back into your other schools and just move on down the road. You don't have to have an Isaac Bear. And I was thinking, oh, that's not really the answer I was looking for. But is there an aptitude in our county to give Isaac Bear, a structure? That's the question we have to ask. And where would the money come from? So that's the task of the specialty committee, ad hoc committee, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to keep digging around in this. But I think if everyone talks to everyone and says, hey, what do you think about Isaac Bear? How do you think we're going to fund that? What are your ideas? Sooner or later, somebody might throw out some idea that we could actually do. And that's my plan as we go forward. But I'm going to continue now. I'm in too deep to back out now in terms of I want to know. Yes? He looked it up.
I did look it up yesterday. First things first, We have a very beneficial, collaborative, and complex relationship with UNCW. We have a lab school that we work with them. We also have Isaac Bear Early College. The board, actually, since you guys don't know this yet, we met with the folks at UNCW yesterday and want to extend our current MOU with them for another year. They do have land that they had set aside for us that terminates, that agreement terminates in 2027 as well. We have been in very close collaboration with them. We're looking at several different options and opportunities. I think the MOU we currently have with them very clearly states that the cost of the building is on the school system in some way or shape or form, but we are looking at several different options. So we understand the value of Isaac Bear. We understand how important that relationship with UNCW is, but we're just looking for a couple different options. We did talk also about if we end up building on their land, there will be a long-term lease. It will be something where we'll have the opportunity. But again, these are long-range, broad conversations we're having.
So, it's progress, but it's not, it's not definitive, but the more we understand it, the better off we'll be, and I think the attitude or the environment at the university and the schools is really strong now. Dr. Barnes is doing a great job with Dr. Morgan and talking to them, and sooner or later, it'll get figured out.
I feel like we have conflicting documents now, though, because what
Well,
you just read.
Okay, but remember that we would have it, and they create, and the General Assembly, I have a copy of the MOU. I can't find it right this minute, but I read it too, and they do conflict. They do conflict. Again, that's something to ask, hey, how did this come about? Why did this conflict in the other counties?
That's what
that will
that
be
was my next question.
and find out what's going on there.
And keep in mind that MOU that expires in 27 was a different chancellor also.
Yeah.
I would give Chancellor Valetti another, chance to talk about it. He might have some better.
Well, one comment that I had heard from somebody at the university was that they just did their 10-year big study, and there was no discussion about changing what they were going to do with this 1 acre. And I want, if I'm not correct, I off of Rose Ave, which I don't even know where that is. So I was going to drive by it because I'm very, very spatial like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, okay.
And it's actually, the piece of property is on Plyer Drive. So you go down road, you take a right on Regal.
Save that and show it to me when we're done.
Okay.
So,
it's not hard to get to.
yeah, I have to see things.
I know, I'm a
This is the
visual
way I do. Is there an aptitude to hold a date in December if we needed to? I agree with Mr. Zappel and Mr. Wildeboer that I would prefer to have our joint meeting in October. And then we're scheduled for November, I just put it away, November 18th, and it's a 10:30 and not a 12:30 because of this space, this meeting space. But I did offer to Kim that if she needed our date, that she could take it. But I would rather not wait that long. But do we want to agree to a date that we could do it if we had to in December? Because again, my idea was by our next meeting in November that we would then just go for a Christmas break and come back in either late January, like the last week of January. So we're just kind of and start over. So I wanted to get a lot of loose ends tied up, if there are any. But again, I think we need to have our meeting after the joint meeting. This meeting, I think, needs to meet after the joint meeting. But if you, at the county level, would let the committee come to that meeting, then just saying. So, what's the aptitude of the people left in the room?
I want to be as efficient as possible.
Yes. Yeah, it takes a lot to put these meetings together and a lot of staff. Whatever. And I think it's great. So you get December off and see what with the joint meeting.
I feel like we've got to be close to at least the commission side of what dates people can do. I've seen me and another commission.
Have you seen any in October?
Yeah, there was. I'll pull it up, but there were some in October. Did you see
Push
it?
them all in November.
That was my understanding.
Did that just change?
Pushed to November.
I had October in it. I mean,
Another kind of a small detail in this, if we have a joint meeting, it'll mean that it'll be a public meeting, which means the press will be there.
Yes.
So we just need to consider that in the discussion, that we better be of like mind, otherwise it's going to send a confusing message out to the public.
I agree. Commissioner Duffels correct. There are Novembers. Because there were some, and then they were taken
Yeah,
out.
they
and now
were
it's just-
on because there was some conflict there, but I would like, if the will is there, and I think I heard it, to go back to our county clerk and say, can we please take another run at this? Here we are at, October 17th, I guess. Is there some way that in the next 2 weeks that we could find a date that we could do this? It's just to put some urgency to it. And I may be totally whistling in the wind. Maybe we have to wait till November, but it won't be for lack of trying to, try and pick up the pace.
Yeah, I mean, I get my vote.
I don't think we can pick a date right now on the spot.
No, okay.
I think it's respectful of everybody, especially the ones who are not here.
Yes.
To allow that process to happen. I'm not saying that I disagree that it's important, but you brought up another point, to make sure that the public meeting, and we're kind of on the same page, it's kind of important to have some more
Oh.
conversations of that. So I mean.
It might be the, it might.
Sit here and plan a date, not respectfully, Madam Chair.
It might be the window of notification, that's why it has to wait. I remember hearing something about that, because the joint meeting takes a longer notification process, maybe? I don't know.
I think what we can encourage everyone here to do is for our board members to respond to our board clerk with available dates and times, for you folks to go back and respond to your folks with the same thing. And then I have 100% trust that they will get the right thing.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure we get our dates to our people, you get your dates to your people, and you let them do the work.
So with that, do we have any other business? Motion to adjourn, all right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.